Spock, where do you think we should start looking for this? Brassica?
Logic suggests that they will present us with opportunities to come to them.
Captain, a message from Starfleet.
On screen.
Captain, the USS Regulus has been forced to cancel its survey mission to the Antares Rift. We've decided to redirect the Enterprise to that mission. The USS Hood will take over for your current assignment.
Of course, the Antares Rift has a rather dangerous reputation.
Nothing the Enterprise can't handle. But be careful. Starfleet out.
The Antares Rift. It should be a most interesting assignment.
How so, Spock?
There have been several attempts to chart it. All expeditions into the Rift vanished without a trace.
But those expeditions were years ago. Our starships are far more capable than they were during the time of those attempts.
Captain, a 10-year-old child is far more capable than a 3-year-old child. But there are many problems that neither child can solve.
Captain's log, stardate 6257.6. We have entered the Antares Rift and found spatial disruptions in the rift that make using warp engines extremely dangerous. Repairs are almost complete on the minor damage we suffered upon entry into the rift. We are continuing our survey using impulse engines.
My poor babies. Warp engines were meant to be used, Captain.
Communications are back online, Captain.
Deflectors at 93% power and increasing.
Captain, undoubtedly that phenomenon would explain many of the strange disappearances in this sector. Still, with our warp engines deactivated, our computers indicate we will be safe.
Communications are out again, Captain. Is anyone hurt?
If he was human, Mr. Spock's pride might be...
Captain, sensors failed to indicate anything unusual prior to the explosion. I would speculate that it was caused by an extremely unusual rift in the space-time continuum, a place where radically different physical laws apply.
And since it was different space-time, our sensors weren't programmed to detect it.
And it could happen again at any time without warning.
Scotty, what's our status?
Very bad, Captain. Whatever hit the Enterprise hit us right in our own neighborhood. The hull is breached 6 meters from the bridge. Beyond that, the instruments are useless. I can't read or send anything through these controls. We'll need a starbase to make this bridge functional again.
Scotty, how about auxiliary control?
Captain, I cannot determine the status of anything beyond the place where the rupture occurred. The rest of the ship could be dead as far as we know.
Ideas, Mr. Walker?
I'm a security guard, sir, not an idea man. Still, if we could send out probes to detect these rifts, we might get a better idea on whether they're moving or not, and whether we should stop and make repairs, or keep moving.
Status, Mr. Sulu.
Helm is not responding, Captain. The controls are completely dead.
We need to make communicating with the rest of the ship our first priority. Status, Mr. Chekhov.
Captain, navigation is not responding. The circuits are as lifeless as a Stalinist.
Any ideas, Lieutenant?
I was barely able to reroute the necessary connections last time, Captain. Communications are completely useless now. We may be able to enter codes into the library computer and instruct others to send messages to us.
Captain, I believe I may be able to adjust the sensors to detect these spatial rifts and pilot the Enterprise to avoid them. However, the sensors are too heavily damaged here. I will need to get to auxiliary control as soon as possible if I am to reroute the necessary systems.
Mr. Spock, the bulkheads were breached just outside of the bridge. No one's going to be able to leave the bridge for at least an hour unless they're transported out.
It's stuck. We're not getting out of here that way.
Captain, the library computer is online. Apparently, its circuits were shielded from the explosion. Captain, I have managed to program a message into the library computer. The first time a person accesses the computer, they will read our distress signal. Hopefully, they can code a reply into the computer, which we can access. Captain, the transporters are operational. I request permission to be transported, so I can begin the adjustments to sensors as soon as possible.
Go ahead, Spock. No, Spock, I'll go first. Go ahead, Spock. Spock!
Captain, what was that thing?
I don't know, Mr. Chekhov, but I intend to find out.
Captain, that thing with the 4 arms wasn't Mr. Spock, was it? That beam wasn't some sort of transmutation beam, was it?
I don't think so, Mr. Walker, but the two have to be connected.
Captain, this bridge is useless. For our own sake as well as Spock's, we have to find a way to get out of here.
Captain, we need to get off the bridge. I recommend we keep monitoring the science station and see if anyone answers our messages.
I'm patching your log into the computer. You should have voice messages.
Captain, we've managed to jury-rig an evacuation tube through the bridge turbo lift. We should be able to keep it stable long enough for you to be evacuated.
Captain's log. After equipping ourselves with tricorders and phasers, we are now searching for a way to find Spock and return him to us. I've determined that the best place to start...
Captain, it's a very good thing we took the warp engines offline.
How bad is it, Scotty?
That explosion was 42% stronger than the one that struck near the bridge. Our left warp nacelle is crippled, Captain.
I hope it's not a trend. Keep me posted, Mr. Scott. Kirk out. I could use advice. Suggestions, anyone? Spock.
I know, Captain. We miss him too. Well, they say the price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
What does that mean, Sulu? That we should have been more vigilant? How could we, if the sensor said nothing?
Well, maybe if Starfleet sensor designers would be quicker to modify their sensors to react to new phenomena.
You two are as bad as Spock and McCoy. Our highest priority is control of the sensors. We must find Spock.
I'll handle it, Captain. Remember, I was a physicist when I first joined the